Hey comic fans, your pal David here to give you guys your comic fix. Now is the best day of the whole entire week. It is Wednesday. And to kick things off, I thought I would announce the winner of this contest I was doing for these two books. Now the winner is, and he's the only one who said he wanted the codes for these books, and that is NJBASS. I don't know what that stands for, but you're the winner, and I'm gonna be instant messaging you the codes to these books. Now, at the end of this month, with all the codes that I have, I'll be giving those out again to anybody who wants them. All they have to do is say, I want the code. So, congratulations. Now, on to the books. Now, I'm going to start off with the indie books I got this week, to the Marvel, then to the DC. Now, first up is Harvest. Harvest is a very interesting book. It follows this doctor who is down on his luck. He has lost his job. He's in a downward spiral. He's doing drugs. He's having sex with prostitutes. And this guy comes up to him one day and says, "Will you help out my daughter?" And he tells him, "I'm not a doctor anymore. You know, I lost everything." But the guy says, "I don't care, and you're going to help my daughter out." He saves the daughter, and then he gets mixed up with the Yakuza. If you did not know, Yakuza is the mafia for Japan. Now, will he get out of this situation that he's in, or will he still go down this dark spiral? You have to read the book to find out. So, as I told you, I am living closer now to my work and to the comic book store, so I'm saving up quite a bit of money. And so I decided I'm going to buy a lot more Image books. This one was definitely a good keeper. Very interesting with the perspective of a doctor and seeing how his downward spiral is. It was just perfect. Not perfect, but it was quite a good, interesting story to be told. And I think that this would actually make a pretty good TV show if they ever decide to do that. The artwork in here is really fantastic. It's really gritty. And you just get immersed into this world that this writer is putting you through. I had to give Harvest issue number 1. I think it's a 6-issue miniseries of 3.5 out of 5. There were some points in there where it was going a little bit slower. You're just seeing the doctor go through his downward spirals. But the payoff in the last page just made you go, oh wow, I want some more. So a pretty good book. Next up, Mind the Gap. Now, I gotta say, I absolutely love this series. I went on to Comixology, I picked up the first 2 issues, and I was just enthralled by this story of this girl who gets attacked in like a subway. They never specifically tell where it's at. And she's in a coma, and when she's in a coma, her spirit is in the place that they call the garden, where other spirits who are in her type of situation, a coma, or about to pass on to the other world. So she's in this weird garden area, and you get to see her trying to figure out what happened. And then the cast along with it, who are just worried about their friend. There's a lot of intrigue in here, and you can definitely tell that they're trying to go for a TV feel. And one thing that I really like about it is, like, right when you first open it up, you get a cool telling you what happened, so in case if you're new to this whole entire series, like I was. And it tells you all the cast members in there and telling you who they are and what they feel to the girl that's in a coma. So it's just really good how they start this book off, especially for new readers who haven't read the first 2 issues. So in here, Ellie, who's the girl in the coma, she's trying to get a message out to her friends to tell them that she's okay, and about the murder or how she was attacked, to get a message out to them. And she actually does, and she gets a couple words out, and it was up to her friend Jo. Now Jo, she is very much like an Indian type gal. She, believes in like the Indian religions, the spirit realm. She's out to try to figure out more of what the coma patient has to say. It's a really fun read, really intriguing, and The only bad part is that I've seen some people say that it's really too wordy and there's not any action in this book, and that's true. But there's so much setup here and character development that is just really good. I'm going to give Mind the Gap, issue number 3, 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed all the character interactions with each other and how they are developing. And when those scenes of action come, it's going to be better off for it with all this character development that we're getting in the early issues. So I'm really intrigued to see where this book is going to go. And I am definitely in this book in the long haul. I put it on my pull list, and I'm not looking back. Okay, now, I saw this book on a preview on one of the comic book sites I go to, and I was like, okay, I gotta pick this up. And then I saw the Avengers movie, and I was like, okay, I really like this character, and that is Hawkeye. So I saw that Matt Fraction was on this book, and I remember reading him on, I believe, Iron Fist. Love the guy, and I heard he was going on to Hawkeye, and I was like, okay, this sounds cool. I love the opening page. The first panel that you see is him in it. The only time you see him in his full outfit, and you see him doing that one where he's falling from like a balcony, and he's throwing his bow out, doing a shot, and it got that scene that we saw in the Avengers movie. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But we see that he gets injured. Basically, he's broken down. He has to go through rehab, gets done with rehab, and that's where we start the story off. And we see him just going through regular life. And I thought it was interesting, though, is that when I was looking through the book and how they had the title of it on the, just telling who wrote the story, and they say Clint Barton, a.k.a. Hawkeye, instead of just saying this is Hawkeye. But this is more of a story about Clint than about his persona as Hawkeye, which is really interesting. And I like how he's just protecting the little man. So it's just a really interesting book. I'm really curious to see where it goes. And yeah, this is another book that has me in. I went and said, put this on my pull list. So I'm going to give Hawkeye issue number 1 a 5.5 or 5 out of 5. Just a really good book, and there's going to be some really good things coming out of this. These guys who are doing this book. And the art I thought was really interesting too. It wasn't like the superhero art that the traditional art that we get. It was more of an indie feel to this whole entire book, which was really cool. So, good book. Next up, Daredevil, issue number 16. I thought this was a really cool cover, really clean cover, and just made you intrigued of what's going on in this book. Well, the previous issues, Daredevil went to Dr. Doom's place, I forget what it's called, and basically lost all his senses. The nanobots got into his body and are just messing with Daredevil. And here we see the first opening scenes with Ant-Man destroying all those nanobots that Dr. Doom had put into Daredevil. And it's really cool to see how that's going. The intriguing part is after that, when Daredevil wakes up and he goes back to his place that he works at the lawyer place. I forget what it's called, but we can see two friends go against each other, and it was just really cool to see. And it's taking this whole entire book into a new direction, which I really am interested to see. So, with that said, the art in here was really good. I like how each couple issues there's a different artist on this book, and this I forget who the writer was or the artist on this book, but he did a really fantastic job. And another good book from Mark Waid and Daredevil. I'm going to give this book 4 out of 5. I'm really intrigued to see where this series goes after this really cool last couple pages in this book. Next up, World's Finest, Power Girl and Huntress, issue number 4. Now, I am so glad this is the conclusion of this radioactive man story arc. It has been really disappointing. After the first issue, which was so much fun and just intriguing to see how these girls from Earth 2 are going to get back to their home dimension or planet. Their home Earth, actually. So since they've been trying to get home, this radioactive man has come in and they've been fighting him for the past 3 issues. Been really uninteresting, and there's been points in there where they're trying to tell about what happened 5 years ago when they did get stuck on Planet Prime, if you want to call it. And those parts were really interesting to see these girls coming into their own in this new environment and seeing how different Earth Prime is from Earth 2. But once they get into the action scenes with this radioactive man, you're uninterested. The characters, you don't feel anything towards them. That's where this book fell hard. I could easily say that if I wasn't doing this show, I would instantly drop this from my collection. But I had to tell you guys what to pick up and what not to, or what to avoid. And this is one I think you guys have to avoid. I mean, the interactions between these two females seems really insulting to females. And I was reading some posts on some forums, and the people were saying, or the females in this forum, they're saying, wow, this is really insulting to us. So I just have been really uninterested about this whole entire series. But George Perez's art is really beautiful, and I think Maguire, I don't remember his first name, his segments are really cool, and I like their dynamic between each other. But the storytelling in here is what's letting me down this whole entire book. Hopefully now, since they're done with the radioactive man, villain, they get back to figuring out how to get back onto Earth 2 and tell better stories. So I'll give World's Finest Power Girl and Huntress a 2 out of 5. The art saves this book, but the writing just doesn't. So that is it for these reviews in this video. In my next video, I'm going to be doing some reviews of Earth 2, the last issue of Justice League International, Action Comics, Detective Comics, and finally, Batwing. So if any of those books interest you, subscribe up top, like on the bottom. My name's David. I'll see you guys on another fix.